Monster movies have been around since the 1900s and often display different fears, whether from the more physical side to the more subtle. Often in these types of films, monsters were used for allegories for the true fears at the time of the film's creation. For example, in the film Nosferatu, the being known as Nosferatu was a way to show the overwhelming fear of the plague coming to Germany back in the day. Many of these films still continue this tradition, such as Norman Bates representing the fear of the neighbor, or Freddy Krueger being the fear of past trauma haunting someone's life. Great examples of these deeper meanings can be found within the monster films produced in the 1950s by RKO Studios and Universal Studios. Universal and RKO both took the idea of the monster and within their films explored the deeper fears that people had and personified them in their films. In this video, we will be looking at two sets of films, one from Universal and one from RKO, and explore the meaning and fear that those two films share. RKO and Universal often copied each other in their horror films, so it's safe to say that their themes and fears will often parallel and align. To kind of start our discussion, we'll be looking at Night of the Demon and Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, both of these films have similar themes that play a lot into their story. So for Night of the Demon, it is mostly about this cult that uses the demon to get rid of people who kind of oppose them or would expose them. So what they do is they bind this piece of paper to the demon. So if one of the occult members gave you this piece of paper, within like 24 hours you would kind of be attacked by the demon and killed and made to look like an accident. To give kind of an example of how the demon kills and how it works, we can take a look at this scene from the end of the film where the demon pops up because the occultist lost the piece of paper and now he's running for his life, and we can see the demon pick him up, toss him, rip him apart, and throw him back on the tracks. And he does it at the same time the train comes to mimic kind of what happens if you get run over by a train, so people don't think it's a demon. So it's pretty interesting to see how he does that and how it works. In contrast, in The Creature of the Black Lagoon, the creature, or Gillman as he's called in the film, only attacks Waverly when provoked by the survey team who are there looking for the missing link in evolution. He never really intended to attack them or harm them. He was genuinely curious like any animal would be, and then went after them after they attacked him. So he was provoked as opposed to going out for blood. Both of these creatures in their own right seem to not be as bloodthirsty as their appearances would lead people to believe so. The demon is being summoned for malicious reasons in order to complete the goal of a cult, whereas Gillman is just a creature defending his home. He's willing to kill for it because he's an animal. That is kind of the idea of the film, is that they're not really meant to be these bloodthirsty monsters. They're just kind of doing what they're being commanded to do, or defending their home. That's kind of the gist of both films. The idea of fear presented in both these films is the fear of the unknown. Gillman represents the fear of the unknown in nature, what we don't understand and what lurks in the dark that could hurt us. We fear that. We don't understand everything about nature and our own planet, so we're afraid of the things we don't understand. The demon represents the other side of that coin and the fear of the supernatural, or the complete unknown of the other side of our existence. We don't know what lies in the dark, we don't know what could be hiding, and we're afraid of it. And people think they can control it, but they're wrong in that kind of sense. So both of these films do pretty well in exploring these ideas of fears without delving too deep into like our own kind of general fear and kind of giving it more of a face with the demon and Gillman. These are the fears represented in these two films. The next two films I want to explore are I Walked with a Zombie and The Mummy's Hand. While these two films seem completely different, they both deal with the issue of death, the dead rising, and religion in different ways. For I Walk with a Zombie, the film follows a doctor trying to cure a woman who exhibits zombie-like attributes, and who the locals, who are very superstitious, believe her to be actually a zombie, and should be killed and sent back to death. The idea of the zombie and the dead rising in this sense comes from voodoo, and that kind of religion. The actual reveal of whether or not she's a zombie or not it's kind of left open to interpretation. We're not really told flat out that she's a zombie or she's not a zombie. It's kind of left for us to decide if it's more of like a brain injury or more so she's actually a zombie or not. The Mummy's Hand focuses more on the classic idea of death and the dead rising, specifically with ancient Egyptian folklore. So, in the film, in the past, a quest was undertaken to gain leaves that can grant eternal life and raise the dead, but one of the pharaoh's servants was discovered stealing the leaves, and was mummified with the leaves, because that won't go wrong at all. So when the tomb is disturbed by archaeologists later on, the leaves have kept the mummified servant alive, and now he's back from the dead and wandering around. So he then kind of goes on attacking the survey team and the archaeologist. In the end, he's stopped more so by the survey team figuring out that the leaf juice is the way to stop him and destroy a vessel of it, cutting off his supply and allowing him to die again. Now, both films focus on the idea of the dead rising and death itself, but also on the idea of religion. Both films focus on the way the dead were raised and how these practices in these ritualistic religions should be avoided as they go against the natural order of things. One of the other differences between these two films is the way the dead are treated. In I Walk with a Zombie, while the locals are afraid of the woman, the doctor wants to cure her and figure out what's wrong with her, whereas the locals just want her to die and go back to where she was. The Mummy's Hand, on the other hand, focuses more on the idea that the dead should stay dead and they have to take care of this. There's no kind of wanting to help the mummy. It's more so he's a monster, we need to stop him. So the overlining layer of fear in this is the fear of death, the dead coming back, and religion. We fear death always, that's kind of an obvious one. The dead rising is fear of something going against the natural order of things, and religion is something that we feel like could be occultic or against the natural order in a sense. So these are kind of the overwhelming fears in the film. Monster films have been prevalent in the genre of horror for as long as the genre has been around. Thus, these themes explored by different studios and different directors will often repeat, but always in different ways. This was the case with the films explored in this video, and will be true for films in the future. The deeper meanings behind these monsters often boil down to a deeper fear that is hard to explore normally. So, directors use the monsters to explore and explain our feelings about these fears, and this helps people move forward or accept these fears. So, as long as there are fears that are hard to explain, monster films will explore these fears and help us while we get scared out of our minds. So that's kind of it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed my comparisons between these RKO films and Universal films. I hope I kind of cleared things up and help you kind of gain understanding. And I kind of hope you go back to your favorite kind of monsters and kind of look back and think, what is this kind of representing to me now? Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day, guys.
Nosferatu!